Welcome back to the Mojo Podcast, a place for curious minds to fill up on leadership inspiration and hear wonderful stories of Mojo, lost and found, high and low. I'm your host Richard Stokes, and we meet here every fortnight to spend time with a diverse and brilliant group of guests who've been generous to spend time with me. This series, the sixth, is all about commitment, a concept we all understand but that can prove elusive, even fearful for us. So in this series I wanted to get under the skin of commitment, how we can commit to ourselves, to our values, to our purpose, and then see the payoff when we literally choose not to have any more choice. Because commitment is one of life's beautiful paradoxes. My wonderful guest this week is Scott Gray. Artist and DJ from London, he's a joint founder of Ibiza's iconic Melon Bomb DJ Collective and creator of the art and design brand Chapter. We met at Scott's home in Ibiza, where the walls are filled with his favourite art and he serves a cracking cup of coffee. We talked about the incredible change Scott and his wife Mandy created in their lives when, whilst on holiday in Ibiza, Scott had a near breakdown moment and realised he could not continue with his stressful, if successful, career in recruitment. Another life called to them. Fast forward a few years, and Scott followed his intuition again to bring together some fellow DJs to create the now globally renowned and frankly island favourite house music collective, Melon Bomb. We talk about the life of a DJ, the joys, the pressures, the creative process, and of course, just what it's like to move a crowd to your rhythms.
So you can be playing sort of a bit more underground, a bit deeper, a bit kind of more minimal if you like, and then you just sense that, right, I think now they need a big vocal, they need a big kind of something a bit more euphoric or something like that. So then you steer it that way, and then you bring it up for a bit and you get the hands in the air, and then the best feeling of all is when you're completely directing that. So you're not going, oh, what do they think? You give them what you think they need, and when that works, that's the best of all.
I really enjoyed getting to know Scott better through this chat, and he shares an abundance of wisdom and advice for anyone thinking about change and anyone finding their mojo not to be in the groove that they'd like. Really hope you enjoy it. Remember to rate and review over on Apple and share with your friends. You don't have to be a house music fan to dig this one, but I bet you want to get over to Ibiza and see Scott and his fellow Melon Bombers playing this summer when you've listened to it. Okay, over to my Mojo chat with Scott Gray. Welcome back to the Mojo Podcast, and as I said in the intro, delighted to be back on location in glorious Santa Eulalia in Ibiza. I'm in the home of DJ and artist Scott Gray. Scott, how are you doing today?
Really good, thanks very much. Thanks for having me on.
Well, it's a joy to be here. And it's lovely to be in your home and see all your art, which we're going to come to and talk a lot about that and the meaning of that for you. But always my first question, I'm going to start here on this sunny day. How's the mojo today out of 10? How would you score it?
Yeah, I'm going to give it about an 8 today, I suppose. Mojo, as I've kind of sort of explained before, comes and goes, and you have brilliant days and you have days when it leaves you a bit and you have to get it going again. And I'm just in like the beginning of an upward spiral, I think. The last few days or so I've had to get my alignment back, and but it feels like it's moving in the right direction. So an 8 today, it'll be a 9 tomorrow.
I love it. So this also goes into this, what mojo means to you. So it's not a steady state I'm getting, it's something that revolves, it spirals, it changes. And what else, what do you notice about yourself when that mojo is spiraling up, Scott, to the 8, 9, dare I say even a 10? How are you feeling? What's going on for you?
Yeah, it just feels like the flow is right. So things, the things that you want to attract, you do attract. You get that good bit of news that you've been waiting for. You get a job that you weren't expecting that pays you well. You get a creative challenge that really suits your your style and your needs. So yeah, things just the law of attraction is working in your favour.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, and then the universe is a self-organising system working in our favour, and at its best, that's it. The mojo is working for you and bringing things to you, all this opportunity. And I also know you've created a lot of that. Just to give people a little snippet of, if they don't know so much about you, and I've said obviously DJ, artist, many other things as well, what do people need to know about you to get the most out of our conversation here?
Oh my God.
I didn't prep you with that question, did I?
No, you didn't. What do they need to know about me? Okay, yeah, I mean, my passion was always art. When I was a child, I wanted to be an artist, and I managed to get myself into art college, and I did okay in the foundation course. Chose graphics when I probably should have chosen fine art, and then kind of got a bit lazy with it really. Ended up not getting the course I wanted to get on. The one I did do was a graphics course, which wasn't quite suited to me, and I ended up dropping out with a full intention of going back to get myself onto a degree course. And then my girlfriend at the time got pregnant. We were very young, and we decided to keep the baby, and so I had to get a real job. Wow. So drifted into recruitment. So that kind of that artistic dream was kind of put on hold for many years, actually, for over 20 years until I moved here.
Wow. So, I mean, that's how do you reflect back on that sort of having to put that, you said, that dream, that passion to one side to do what a lot of us have to do is like the provider. I have to step up here and be the provider for baby, for partner, and that sort of thing. Yeah,
totally. I mean, it was the only sort of choice really. It felt to me at the time. I had to, to provide for the family. So yeah, I kind of drifted into this recruitment role, which I stayed in for 20 years. But it did me well. I mean, it wasn't what I wanted to do at the time, but I have no regrets on that because all roads lead to this. If I hadn't have done that job, I wouldn't have bought the house in London that wouldn't have allowed me to buy the place I'm in now. So, it's all roads lead to this, so it's all good.
So all roads lead here to Ibiza and the life you've created with Mandy, your wife,
yes,
here in Ibiza, and what you've brought together in terms of the culture I see you creating around music and around art. So given that you had to put sort of the art dream on hold for a long time, what was the moment when the move to Ibiza happened? Was there and the change out of recruitment, because obviously you're not doing that now. What was that change? What did it come from? Was it because change often comes from two places? It's either inspiration or desperation. What was it for you?
Desperation. Towards the end of my recruitment career, it was getting very, very stressful. We were working like ridiculously hard. They reduced our team. Basically, the pressure was just high, and the bosses at that company wanted a lot from us, which is good when you're young, but when you are I was just 40 at the time. It was just getting to be too much. And I was here on holiday with Mandy. We used to come here on holiday every year after meeting here in 97, actually. We came back every year for a 2-week holiday. And it was day 2 or 3 into the holiday. I woke up in a cold sweat, knowing that I had to just give up and stop the work. I think I may have been even heading for a breakdown, if I'm honest. And just said to Mandy, this is it. I can't do it anymore. We're going to have to... we're going to have to change. I'm going to quit my job. And at that point, it wasn't, we're going to move to Ibiza straight away. It was, we had a little bit of money in the bank because we'd put it back into a house. So because I didn't at that point think I was going to be needing money for a life-changing move. So we just decided, I said to Mandy, what about, let's travel for 6 months, on the cheap, to backpack around Europe or something. And then she just said, well, why don't we come and live here, try and do a season. And like within the space of about 2 hours, we decided that's what we were going to do, and that was the plan that we were going to bring to fruition, and we did. Wow! So in that moment, I can tell you can clearly remember exactly where you were and what you were feeling at that time, and with Mandy's support, obviously around that, all these decisions were made. And was there any, so a lot of people I think will empathise with what you were feeling, what you were going through, and maybe even that, what is it that I need to do? Was there anything that nearly shifted you away from that decision, that commitment to change everything? I mean, yeah, there's always kind of small obstacles that get in the way. Before I reached that point, we'd sort of come here and dream about it. How can we do it? How can we change our lives? How can we come and live here? And we just could not figure it out for the life of us. We didn't realise that it was essentially as easy as it was back then, pre-Brexit. And one person had given us a piece of advice maybe a year or two before, and that was just do it. Someone that lived here that we met. Yeah. And me and Mandy were like, just do it. That's easy to say. Really, that was it. You just have to do it. We just have to figure it out. And when you're desperate to know that you have to change your life, clarity sometimes comes to you quite quickly. And it was just a case of, okay, what's the biggest hurdle? Our house, the mortgage. Who's going to pay that? well, we'll rent it out, which is what we did. We rented it out for 6 months initially and came here just for 6 months. And that was kind of the biggest hurdle. And then the next thing was, what would we do for work? Well, we would do anything for work. We were both kind of, we wanted to be here. We wanted to make it work. So we kind of decided that we would pour pints in a bar if we needed, whatever, clean rooms, we didn't care. We just knew we wanted to be here. And so with that kind of frame of mind and low expectations of when we moved here, if you like, it kind of fell into place.
Yeah, so I get a real sense of openness to, we know what we don't want, and that's the life in London that you're leading. We want to come here, and then whatever we can create, we create. And let's sort of move it forward a little bit, because I know you did lots of different jobs when you came in. Man and van, you were mentioning that?
Well, I came over with a van, knowing that I could earn, and I ended up working with a guy moving sound systems around the island and doing events. So for the first 2 years, I worked for this small company doing events and sound systems. And then the third year, bought my own sound system with a friend of mine. I did that for a year, but during that period, that's when I rediscovered my desire to do art and to DJ. DJing was just a hobby to me at that point. I did it in bars and stuff in London, and I did it in a few bars and stuff here and the odd wedding, but it was never going to be a job. So that all kind of came to me in the third year when I had the sound system, and then I realised that I wanted to pursue that.
And you mentioned when we talked over coffee before, you had a moment. I think it was down near Escobels, you were saying. Tell us about that moment, because I think these moments you talked about clarity. I think this is really important for people to notice these things.
Yeah, so when we first arrived, for the first few weeks, we were just like, okay, we're on holiday, we can chill for a bit, we don't have to find work straight away. And then after about week 4, I was like, maybe it's time now, we need to sort of knuckle down, let's find some work, we want to stay here for the summer. And I was going around with my van, speaking to the few people that I did know here, because my contacts were quite limited when I first moved here. Mostly it was people that worked in restaurants and stuff, because they're the people we go and see. Hey, how you doing? Telling everybody I had this van and could I earn with it and all the rest of it, and nothing was really forthcoming. So Mandy managed to get a little job helping a friend out on a photo shoot, and she was getting paid in a bikini. and I was just like, I dropped her off, and I was like, okay. It wasn't far from Escobels. Now Escobels is one of our favourite viewpoints on the island. It's just gorgeous down there. The view out to sea is just incredible. So I went there, parked the van up, sat on the wall there next to the playground and the church, looking out to sea, and had my first, if you like, kind of hippie universe kind of moment where I wanted to speak to somebody high. I didn't know about the law of attraction. I didn't know about any of that stuff at that point. I just knew that I had to speak to somebody because it wasn't quite happening. And I sort of sat on the cliff edge there, looked out to sea, spoke to the universe, Tanit, God, whoever it was who was listening, and just said, in my mind, all right, you've got me here. What do you want? What am I supposed to do next? And then the next day, I did get a phone call from someone saying, oh, you know how to set up DJ equipment. Can you someone's looking for a roadie. Do you want to come and help? Oh, wow.
And that's where it all kind of came from, because you asked the question, you got the answer the next day.
Yeah, it felt like that. It was only it wasn't until a few years later that I discovered that kind of thinking was actually a thing. I just kind of did it. Do you know what I mean? At that point.
Yeah, whether you knew you were manifesting, visualizing, whatever, just putting it out there rather than keeping it in. I think we're very used to just keeping all our thoughts, our emotions, our big dreams in. And what you did, from what I'm getting, Scott, you externalized it.
Yeah, totally. Externalised it, put it out there, and I've since found that is a really powerful tool, actually. And it doesn't always work. I want £1 million. You're not going to get £1 million like that. But if you put it out there, think about it, imagine it, and all, manifestation. I actually believe in it. I believe it's a thing.
Yeah. So how did you move from there then to now? We'll move forward a little bit more in terms of on the DJ side, and obviously I know you DJ'd and do DJ yourself under your name, and also there's Melon Bomb, the collective, which I'm sure a lot of people will also have come across. How did all those stars align, and did you manifest that, I guess? Did you ask for that to happen?
One of the things I did manifest, actually, and a good friend of mine always reminds me of this, is playing for Glitterbox. So that is one thing that I did kind of put out there, and that happened, and that's amazing. But to rewind a bit, I honestly didn't think when I came to the island and the first couple of years that DJing was even an option as a profession. As I said, I did it for fun. I did it because for the love of it, like a lot of DJs do, but never imagined it would be a job, to the point where I just didn't even consider it a possibility. But I had a bit of a break, and that was, I had 2 breaks. One of them was I was playing at a party in the winter, a birthday party of a friend, and Vaughan, who used to run the funky room at Pasha, heard the music I was playing, which at the time was disco and funk and soul and hip hop, not house music. And he came up to me and he said, "Oh man, I really like your music. Would you be interested in covering for Willie or Pippi in the funky room at Pasha this summer a couple of times?" And I'm like, "Yeah, great, let's do that." So that was kind of my first that was like a bit of a break really. When I heard that, I thought, "Oh, well, okay. Perhaps then I should take it a bit more seriously." So that was my kind of first break on that side. And then another friend of mine, a guy who's become a friend of mine, Bob Masters, saw me playing around the similar time at a friend's do up in Cala Vicente in a place called Hidden. And he also liked the music I was playing and said, "Oh, would I like to come and be part of his Ibiza Soul Week?" So those both happened within like a space of about a month of each other. And when that happened, I was like, okay, maybe there's something in this. Perhaps I should follow that path.
Yeah, so I get this, from, I guess, it moving something from a passion to your real purpose, like, the music, and getting there, you nearly sort of parked it and went, well, no, I'm not going to get paid for DJing's fun. It's a hobby, as you said, 100%. But it's not going to be the thing. And just those couple of, you say, those breaks, were they breaks or did you make them happen? That's the thing. Whatever you put, the energy you put out there, started to get that particular ball rolling. I'm getting this real sense of belief maybe that was growing in you that this could be a thing if I throw myself into it.
Yeah, it's weird. I still don't think I was trying to make it happen then, if I'm honest. I know that sounds blasé and like, oh my God, how lucky were you to get that? And it really did feel more like kind of luck than judgment. All right, there might have been something that I was playing nice music, so I have to kind of give myself credit for that, because both those people appreciated the style of music I was playing. And at that point, I thought, I'm not going to play house music. Everybody's plays house music in Ibiza. I'm never going to cut out a niche doing that. So yeah, I guess I kind of was playing the soul and funk for that kind of reason, but again, never thought that I would get to where I am now. It wasn't until I kind of got Melon Bomb started with the guys, then maybe I started to think about how it could move and what I could do with it and stuff like that. Yeah, but at that point, when those first early 2 breaks came, I still didn't I didn't feel like I was pushing it. It just felt like it came to me.
Yeah, and because Melon Bomb is a collective of 4, yes. Right? Is there something about, and you'll talk about how it sort of came to be in fruition, is there something about being in the group which helps with the belief bit that, this is real, we're creating this thing, it's bigger than me? No. Yeah,
completely, actually. That's a really good point, because there's 4 professional DJs in the group who have all got their own things outside. We've all got a desire for it to work, and we've all got experience, and we've all got our different talents that we bring to the group. And sometimes it moves around the person who's kind of leading it or pushing it. We don't have a natural leader, but people kind of take turns at kind of steering it a bit, actually. And at the moment, like for instance, Corby is very much kind of helping to move it in the right direction, and he's really kind of pushing it. And he was quite instrumental in musical direction a few years back, when it kind of, we could have been like another kind of nostalgia group playing just all the hits. And he was just like, no, come on, guys, we need to keep this more underground and cooler and stuff. So yeah, it's being in a collective definitely helps to keep the energy levels up, I think.
Right. So and the collective, sort of, again, just a little step back for people who don't know the story. How did it come about then? Was it a conscious, I want to be in a collective, I've got to go and find my brothers somewhere, or is it one of these things that just kind of happened?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, it was my idea to kind of start it, I suppose. And I've always liked collaborating, and I always liked teams and teamwork and stuff like that. So, whereas DJing could often be, like quite a sort of solo pursuit. Yeah, so I was at a wine night at Vino & Co. where they had a guest chef in, and they were cooking us food to promote the wines that they sell. And I'd met Ben Santiago once or twice, and I'd worked with lovely Laura as a sound technician, and I think I DJ with her once at a wedding. And I'd met Paul's mum and dad, but not Paul before, Paul Reynolds. And this was in the November of 2014. I had just been confirmed then to play Passion New Year's Eve, and I wasn't just covering for Willie or Pippi. I was actually listed as the DJ on the night with DJ Pippi. So I kind of, I was feeling quite good about myself. And so that night I met Paul for the first time, and Ben, myself, and Paul kind of gravitated towards each other because we were all DJs, I suppose. And I just had this kind of moment of madness, or I don't know what it was. This kind of thing just clicked into my head, and I looked at them both and I said, "I've got a really good idea for us. Let's have a meeting next week. What do you think?" And they were just like, "Yeah, all right, okay, let's do it." And apparently afterwards, they because they knew each other, they were outside the place saying, "What do you think of this guy? Should we have a meeting with him?" Yeah, let's hear what he's got to say. Let's give him a chance. Anyway, the next morning I woke up with a hangover because I used to drink then. And I said to Mandy, "I've got a meeting with Ben Santiago and Paul Reynolds, and I've got no idea what it's going to be. What am I going to tell these guys?" But then I realised that I quickly had this idea that I'd been to Glitterbox that had just started that year, really liked what they were doing, and thought there could be more like a sort of a slightly more underground version of that to be had, because that kind of disco funk stuff was coming in. Perhaps we could do it somewhere in between the kind of tech scene and the sort of disco scene, which is kind of where we sort of tried to position ourselves originally. So yeah, that was the idea. So I had a meet with the guys. They were up for doing something. This was in November. And then we didn't meet again until the following January. We said, okay, let's put it on hold. Let's do Christmas, get it out of the way. Let's get back together. And during that period, I'd managed to get us a booking to put our own night on at Pikes, because I'd played there the previous October. They liked what I was doing. It was a friend's wedding. They booked me to play Halloween, carried on liking what I was doing. So by the time January, February came, and I asked them if I could put a night on, they were like, "Yeah, we know this guy. He seems to be okay. we'll give him a date." So went to the second meeting with Ben and Paul. At that point, we didn't have a name, and I had the image, the melon head image that is now our logo. Right. We call him Mel. And I brought him along to the meeting, and that's where we got the name, because the image is like of a melon head kind of thing. And it was an image that I'd made to sell as an art print the Christmas before, but nobody bought it except for one person.
Wow, imagine if you've got that art print now. But I love this sense of here's your worlds coming together, the art passion and the music passion, and the art educating the music with this is going to be the name of the group. Yeah, it was. I mean, poetry emotion, I suppose. Thinking about again. I didn't think about any of it like the way you're putting it now, which is so it's nice to hear it kind of sold back to me in this as an ideal. But I guess it was just one of those things that happened smoothly and. So we got our first booking at Pikes in the February, and it was at that point it was just me, Ben, and Paul. Paul couldn't make it, so we hired the services of DJ Paulette, and she played at our very first Melon Bomb gig, and not many people turned up, and it wasn't the busiest night, and I just thought, well, that's it, Pikes will never book us again. But they did. They said, "Oh, would you like to come back in March, give it another go?" So we came back in March, and this time it was Nick Clayton's 60th birthday, and half the island turned out for Nick, which was great. And Pikes were like, this is amazing. These guys can really put a crowd. Will you come back in April? And really, it was kind of because of Nick's crowd, really. But fortunately, Nick's crowd, they came back and supported us, and we kind of grew from then. And then in the May, we got booked to play, believe it or not, in Space as Melon Bomb. Wow. Because of Paul's connection, because Paul was already one of the residents of Space. And I think Ben couldn't make it for that time. So we wanted to bring another guy in, so we brought Juan Corby in. And he covered for it was either Paul or Ben. And we liked what he did, and we were just like, okay, let's do it with the four of us. And originally it was only ever going to be to promote parties and not as a DJ collective as such. But then we kind of, when we started to get booked as Melon Bomb, we decided we were better off as a collective as well. Right. So again, it wasn't this fixed intention of this is how it's got to be. There was this I got this sense of the spaciousness of like, you know, feeling into it, what's happening, people are turning up, places are booking us, and the music's the music that you want to be playing. So bring us sort of up to date now. Give us a sense of the sorts of places, again, for people who might not know, that you're playing now.
I mean, we play regularly at Pikes still. So from that first party in 2015 until now, we do a monthly every summer, and it's still considered our home. We consider it our spiritual home, and it's the place we love best. And that's a Melon Bomb branded party. So that's out, and we get guests in for that. So that's a thing that happens regularly. We also get to play in High, often always for their opening parties, and I think we've played most of their closing parties as well. Actually, we were certainly the first people to play in Wild Corner when it opened, yes. And we opened it and closed it that season. I think we pretty much have done since then. And then we also are really fortunate enough to play at Glitterbox in High as well. And we do play in Wild Corner, which is the disco toilets, but we also play the club room and the theatre room in there as well. This year we're doing all three rooms, and a big highlight for me is in September on the 15th, we're playing the main room with Masters at Work. So they're on before us, and then we're closing after them. And for me, that's just like, you know, I feel like I've cracked it.
Right, because they are like, in terms of sort of the OGs, in terms of your music and what you love, right? This is your passion.
Yeah, completely. When I first got into house music, back in the early 90s, I bought a because I wasn't massively into it in the late 80s when the scene burst. I went to a few raves, but I didn't really get it until about, I think it was 1990 actually, probably when I took my first E, and then it all kind of made sense. And then the first record I bought, the first CD, it was CDs then, I bought was a Ministry of Sound CD, and there were a couple of Masters at Work tracks on there. So yeah, from my kind of, you know, from my beginning, the time I really got into house to now, Masters at Work have always been there.
Wow. So what sort of age were you then, back in that time when you first heard them play?
When I first heard them play was probably a few years later, but when I first heard their music I was 20. Yeah.
Right. So from young Scott as a 20-year-old to here you are now, and you're going to be sharing the stage with them at High. Wow, the world's best nightclub. Amazing.
Yeah, so that's definitely going to be a pinch myself moment for sure. Yeah. And I'm sure the guys feel the same as well. Yeah.
And I'd love to get into a little bit of the experience of being a DJ, because you've spoken about the benefit of, because I know you play yourself and obviously with the collective, if it can be when you're on your own, and it seems to me most DJs probably are playing by themselves. What is that like, and what does that feel like when you're up there on stage?
Yeah, it's a good question. It depends, of course. If you're having a great gig, if the gig's busy, if there's plenty of people in front of you dancing, enjoying themselves, and their hands are in the air, it's the greatest feeling. It's a different feeling now that I'm sober as well, if I'm honest. I probably used to buzz more when I'd had a few drinks, and now I tend to enjoy it kind of after the event. Do you know what I mean? If a gig's gone really, really well, certainly the next day I wake up and I'm buzzing more then, weirdly, than when I'm playing. But when I used to drink, I guess I would enjoy it as much at the time as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so you got this, I'm going to guess, a clearer head the next day because you haven't had any alcohol at all, and you remember everything without anything sort of falling out.
Yeah, completely. But weirdly, playing with a clearer head, perhaps you're more self-critical, or you're less relaxed about it. So perhaps I don't always enjoy it as much in the moment as I used to, but I still enjoy it. Don't get me wrong, I still love what I do. Yeah. But it is a different experience doing it sober. Yeah. But as I say, the next day I look back and when I've had a good one, I always feel amazing.
Yeah. So was the decision to quit booze? So that, you know, there was a lot in that then, because your profession is you are on stage, you are performing, and I understand a lot of performers where they like to have a bit of booze or need it. That must have been a big call for you.
Yeah, it was. But my desire to have a break from it was bigger than my desire to need to go on stage in more of a chilled manner, if you know what I mean. And it was definitely a challenge at first. When I first started DJing sober, I did struggle a little bit to be relaxed. And even now, sometimes I get a little bit nervous before I go on, but I think that's normal. And yet, certainly, I know a lot of DJs. I remember hearing Fatboy Slim in an interview saying that he used to have to drink a pint of orange and vodka. And it took him a long time to beat that and to get over that. So I guess I kind of had that in my mind when I gave up drinking, about how I could approach DJing. So I knew it was possible. And I'm hearing quite a few other DJs. I think Jamie Jones has been sober. Also, Luciano famously went sober, I think about 2 or 3 years ago. So yeah, there is a culture of DJs. You know what it is? I think it's the older DJs that have been around a bit, and maybe I haven't been around in the scene as long as those guys, but I'm certainly of a similar age to those guys. And you realise that if you want longevity and you want to continue doing what you're doing, a healthier approach is going to work better, I think.
Yeah, so I get that this sort of sense of which all the habits we make around ourselves are votes for the identity that you want to have. And I also move into this idea of, so how do I make this career even longer and build it out longer? And how does that look with either for yourself and with Melon Bomb? How are you? I'd love to get into how, again, maybe as Melon Bomb, as 4 people within it, how the evolution happens. Because you talked a little bit about it before in terms of some of you take a musical lead at different points, but I do get this sense of it's not something we're resting on our laurels. It's not the nostalgia gigs that you mentioned. So how do you get it to keep moving forward?
Yeah, we spend a lot of time looking for new music. And musical direction, and we talk about it a lot. We're on a WhatsApp group, so we're constantly kind of sharing music, and yeah, we're just really conscious that we want to not be playing the easily accessible stuff that you can get on Tracksource or Beatport or the top 10s and what everybody else is playing. We like to dig a bit, so that'll be obscure older stuff, and then looking for kind of cooler underground labels and underground artists that just keep it fresh, keep it moving. We don't we purposely do not want to stand still. We want to always kind of push the boundaries and keep evolving our sound a bit, and it seems to work. People kind of have responded really well to our musical direction. We get told that quite a lot, so we know we're moving in the right direction.
And this is a thing again with artists, because I hear from when I speak to comedians, they always feel they have to bring new material to every single tour or gig or whatever it might be. And obviously when we go and see maybe rock bands, we want them to play the old songs where we feel the nostalgia. How is it for you in DJing then, in terms of that this sort of the pull and push of, you want to create the new, but your audience might want some of that stuff we know, play us one we know? Does that work?
Yeah, it does. A way around that is to play at least something they know occasionally.
Right.
But we try to find like newer edits of it or new versions of it, or something that a track that people have forgotten that was wasn't massive at the time, but it was in everybody's conscious at the time. So we tend to try and find those tracks, and then we do play the odd kind of big hands in the air banger as well. Certainly towards the end of our sets or towards the end of our nights, we might play a few more classics, but we also try to play a sound that has it's that kind of a nostalgic sound, but not those. They're tracks that are made recently to sound like older tracks, if that makes sense. And there's a big kind of desire and culture for that at the moment, which is going really, really well. There's a lot of really good new producers that are coming out with that stuff, especially the younger generation. They really understand that kind of, certainly that sort of late 80s, early 90s sound, which is quite big at the moment, and they're making tracks in that flavour of start, that flavour of music. So yeah.
And do you think about the audience as a core group when you're doing your sort of your WhatsApps going around? You think this is who our core audience is, that's who we want to push this new sound to?
Yes, we do. We're always happy and conscious of the younger generation that come to our gigs. At Pikes, they can't come too young because I think the age limit is now 27. But when we play in places like High, we certainly have a demographic that starts in the kind of early 20s that goes right up to sort of 50s and 60s. So we're conscious that we want to kind of keep the young guys on board, because they're the future of the scene. So we definitely need to keep those guys happy.
Yeah, and that must be quite a balance, I guess, between someone who's in their 20s and someone my age, my early 50s, and we're all there having a great time. And on that, how do you, thinking of the collective mojo, because the audience has that, could you, when you're up there on the decks, do you see that? Do you see changes in how the audience is sort of moving and reacting? Yeah,
completely. I mean, you can be, for instance, you can be playing sort of a bit more underground, a bit deeper, a bit kind of more, what's the word, minimal, if you like. And then you just sense that, right, I think now they need a big vocal. They need a big kind of something a bit more euphoric or something like that. So then you steer it that way, and then you bring it up for a bit, and you get the hands in the air, and then you might take it deeper again. So yeah, 100%. You have to read the crowd, and you have to feel it, and you have to kind of take them on a journey. But also, it's nice when the best feeling of all is when you're completely directing that. So you're not going, oh, what do they think? You give them what you think they need, and when that works, that's the best of all. Do you know what I mean? When you like decide, I'm going to take it this way, and they go with you, that's the best. But sometimes they don't, and sometimes you have to bring it back to a more vocally kind of set, and and play one or two more classics. Yeah. You're tuning into them, and you also know from your experience of this is what you need right now. This is what I'm going to give you, and then you get that amazing reaction. Yeah, 100%. And also, the best crowds to play for are an Ibiza crowd, because everybody's here on holiday, everybody's up for it. They're here because for the love of the music as well, quite often. So and the mix of nationalities is brilliant. The fact that you're playing to an international crowd is there's something kind of exotic about it for the crowd as well. Everybody kind of, they're just feeling this is a bit different and a bit special, and so they're up for it, and they're tuned in and ready to go. Beautiful. And let's bring it back, sort of, your love of Ibiza, because obviously that's what brought you here. Also want to talk a bit about the art as well, and chapter, which is you're creating your art underneath. How has that kind of, I guess, developed, and where is it at, and where do you want to take that? Yeah, it started because around the same time I started to DJ, in fact, just slightly before, about a year before, I got spotted doing those birthday parties. I decided I wanted to make a T-shirt. I wanted to get back to my drawing, get back to my art, and design a T-shirt. So I designed a skull, and if you look behind you. Oh wow! That one on my That's it. Was one of the first that I made, and it was a drawing originally, and I wanted to put it on a T-shirt. And a friend of mine said, "That's really nice. Can you blow that up? And I'd like to put it on my wall." And that was my first commission, and it was actually that piece, which is for the viewers at home that can't see. Well, I'll put a photo of this in the socials as well, so people can see it. But yeah, do describe it. So it's a sugar skull. It was back then, kind of sugar skulls and everything Mexican skull was in vogue. So I decided to do my own version of it. And as I say, just to make some T-shirts, just for a little side hustle, really. And when my friend said, "I like that, can you blow it up?" I thought, actually, that's quite good. I will blow it up for you, and then perhaps I'll sell some smaller versions of it as prints. And that was where I started. So that was my first commission, and my first print was that one there. Yeah. So. And that kind of got me started, and I realised, oh, this is good. I'll make some more prints. So I kind of started to come up with more designs, and found that people liked them. Found a price bracket that was good, and I've been kind of slinging prints ever since. Where do I see it going? I don't know, honestly. I still kind of I'm trying to grow it. I've as we spoke about previously, I've started to do work on my Instagram page to try and grow it beyond friends and friends of friends, because everybody I know has got a piece, including yourself, Richard. Everyone's got a piece of my work in their house on the island, which is great. And I need to now and in England as well, a lot of my friends there. So I need to kind of move beyond that. So I've started to work on my Instagram page. And talk a bit about that, because the sub theme of this series is around commitment. We've talked a lot about all your commitments as we've kind of gone through this. But your commitment to how you're growing that Instagram audience, I think is really interesting for people to hear. Tell us more about it. Yeah, so I went to see a friend of mine who's an influencer in her 50s, and she's smashing it. And all I wanted from her was a bit of advice about how to grow my page. And she looked me in the eye and said, "You need to speak to camera every single day." And I said, "There's no way I'm doing that. I'm too self-conscious. I even like doing these podcasts. Sometimes I feel a bit self-conscious. So doing, speaking to camera and telling them about my life was the last thing I wanted to do." And then she just said to me, "Look, is it a hobby, or do you want to make some money out of it?" And I was just like, "Well, yeah, I could do with making some money out of this." Yeah. So she kind of like twisted my rubber arm, if you like, and I decided that I needed to take her advice. So I did. She said to me, "Look," she challenged me to do 5 days of speaking to camera about myself and about my life here and about some art related stuff, but it doesn't all have to be about my art. Tell them about me and what I do, and people will buy into that. So I've been kind of I've made a conscious effort to do that. I did that for 5 days, and in fact I did it every day for about 3 or 4 weeks. Now I've kind of got it down to about 2 or 3 a week. And interestingly, the stuff that people love the most are my restaurant visits and stuff like that, and beaches that we go to, and the location stuff. People love that kind of thing. So yeah, I've decided to go down that route and see where it takes me.
Yeah, beautiful. And I guess the great thing about it being on Instagram, you're seeing the immediate reactions. You can tell people are enjoying it, they're engaging with it, and I get a sense that from that reticence at the beginning of face the camera 5 days. Yeah, it's really, the results have moved you through that.
Yeah, they have. I still get a bit self-conscious doing it, and I still look at some of them and go, "Oh my God!" But people seem to like it, and the comments I've had from everybody that I've bumped into have been really, really positive. So, with that kind of support behind me, I think I'll keep doing it.
Beautiful. Well, I think you should, because I'm personally really enjoying them as well. And it is all those, your eye view of Ibiza and your knowledge of it. We can all, learn from that. Before we close, Scott, anything I'd love to talk to people about things that they're doing for themselves, like every day, that almost like a daily practice that again, come back to the mojo question, to get my mojo to the peak of where I want it to be. I just have to commit to that thing. Have you got any things like that?
Yeah, I do. We have a daily routine. We get up every morning, we meditate for 15 to 20 minutes on using an app on our phone. We then do, this is me and my wife, Mandy, we then do 10 to 15 minutes of yoga, which we get off of YouTube. And then we do 10 to 15 minutes of kind of aerobic style exercise, which again we got off of YouTube. So all those things set up our day beautifully. We don't eat before lunchtime, so we're intermittent fasting, which means that for me, it gives me more energy in the morning. And then gratitude lists, they come and go. I must admit, I've not been on it these last couple of months, and I'm going to get back to doing it. But if I find the time, I try to do a gratitude list every morning. 10 things I'm grateful for. And then I changed that to 10 things in the past, 10 things in the present, and 10 things in the future that I want to bring into my life. So I'll do that when I can remember. And as I say, I've just started to get back into doing that again. And I think that helps, because I think gratitude is really, really important in helping you grow your mojo. I did a post the other day about going 24 hours without complaining. So little things like that. But one of the things that really, really helps me to boost my mojo and has really helped me in the last couple of weeks is meeting up with a really good friend of mine, Peter Adams. I think you know Peter. Yeah. He's also a life coach. Yeah. And we just talk about our feelings, actually, which we don't do a lot of, do we? Especially as guys, and especially our generation. Maybe the younger generation are better at it, but we're not so good at it. But me and Peter really make a point of meeting up, if we can, once a week, having a coffee, and we just talk about things that have got us down, but mostly about how we're trying to get out of it. And he challenges me, and I challenge him. Like, he challenged me recently to give up the news. Right, and then we check in every week about how's your and for me, I find that difficult because I'm massively interested in British politics and American politics. So I've kind of backed away from the news. I've listened to what he said, and then something happens, like Trump gets guilty on 34 counts, so it brings me back in again. So I have a look at it again, but then I kind of drift away from it. But little things like that, we challenge each other to try to do. If I was to give advice to people about how to get your mojo up, if you can find someone that's really, really positive and on your kind of wavelength, try and meet up with them at least once a week, twice a week, once a week, once a fortnight, and just exchange ideas about how you can make yourself feel better. And it's really, really powerful.
Yeah, I love that. And you know, as you said, especially for us men, maybe of an age, talking about, sharing about emotions around feeling, it's really, really important. And just helps you sort of move through some of those long-held limiting beliefs that we all have. And I like that sort of getting straight to the feeling, straight to the emotions, rather than, we could talk about the football, couldn't we? We could fill that time for half an hour, but actually getting straight to the truth is really powerful.
I'm also very, very fortunate in that my wife, Mandy, she's so powerful with positivity, and she's really, she's really persistent with it as well. So she never lets it slide or slip. She's just, I mean, everybody says that about her, so I'm very, very fortunate to have her too. But when you live with someone that's like that, sometimes you can take it for granted and overlook it. So by moving myself away from that and speaking to somebody else who reinforces those same kind of values, then it really brings it home.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, Scott, what a chat. I've been wanting to do this one for ages, and I'm really pleased we've got to do it in your home and, you know, share all of this, you know, this story of your mojo. So thank you so much for joining the Mojo podcast today, Scott.
Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
What a cracker that was. A proper gent, Scott is. Very welcoming and totally full of humility. If you get a chance to see Melon Bomb, I heartily recommend it. Always one of our favourite nights out here in Ibiza. And there's so much to reflect on in this episode. I love loads of Scott's advice. Remember, all roads lead to this. So everything you're doing right now is leading to where your heart truly wants to be, even in those really difficult moments. And go and ask the universe for an answer if you're stuck. It doesn't have to be here in Ibiza, but put it out there, vocalize it, write it down. Most importantly, get your dream out of your head and start to make it a reality. And more generally than that, remember to fully commit, be it to your own creative process or the identity you want for yourself. Commitment, remember, is choosing not to have any more choice after all. And remember, sharing is caring, so please do help me get the Mojo podcast to more ears by sharing it in your social channels. And I'll see you back here in 2 weeks for another amazing Mojo conversation. Until then, I hope your mojo continues to flow.